Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon.
Well, when you hear me introduce Pam Potanka at the beginning of our conversation, I heard myself say, Pam Potanka is sales. Her practice is sales, and Pam Potanka is sales. Now, you might get the image that she's, a slick salesperson, sort of a female Willy Loman who gets out there and tries to sell people things they don't need. No, this is not that kind of salesperson. She leads a sales team for the North America territory of PerkinElmer with a line of products and services, two products for the kinds of laboratories that we count on to keep us healthy, to work the magic that laboratories do, from our CDC to private laboratories. And Pam and her team make sure that they get what they need when they need it, which when you hear her and me talk, you'll know is why she is about sales. She really loves that feeling that she has closed the gap and put her customers in better shape to do what they are best to do. Now, she had been my student back, I think, graduating in 2007. So some years have passed for both of us, and it's a wonderful reunion. So you hear a little bit of the longing that I have as now a retired teacher to hear what she remembers about the learning in my classes. And I can give you a quick preview of that answer. It works to this day. She learned a lot about how to value differences, variety, rapid change, and really look forward to no day being the same as the day before. And that was essentially what I taught for 50 years. So here is, without further yakking on my part, Pamela Potanka. Well, I'm back, folks. I'm back. There was a few weeks where I was reprising conversations with Peter Vale, which then gave me some time to do some more work on promoting the new book on Practice as a Way of Being. And I was delighted to have the first person that I lined up to return to regular episodes with very smart and interesting people was Pam Potanka. And like some of the folks you'd see in my whole roster of 180 other episodes, she was a student of mine. And Pam, I track you down. I mean, you can never get away from the doc.
That is for sure.
And one reason that, and many reasons that I like to reconnect with Pam, and I used to have her as a guest in my class, is that she has a complete feeling for sales. She's not just about sales or she can sell. She is, in a way, sales. And she developed that very effectively early in her career at a company called Beakley here in Connecticut, which was doing medical testing devices. And here it is some years later, and she's back in the laboratory, back working now with another very venerable company, PerkinElmer. And she is say it again, Pam.
Service sales manager for North America.
That's a lot for a guy my age to remember.
That's all right, Doug.
I didn't get to write it down, and I could have been prepared, but I love the sound of it. Service sales manager. So does that mean that what you sell along with the product, the PerkinElmer product to those labs, is continual service?
Correct. Yes. So we not only provide the instruments that are required in these laboratories, which is that component is from a different division. My team, essentially, we provide any items that are needed to maintain the service on those instruments. So we generally sell consumables or parts that are needed to maintain the life of the instrument. We also work directly with our service engineers that are out in the field doing repairs and helping customers. So that's the service component, you might say, to what my team does.
And I suspect that these are the kind of instruments for laboratories that do require careful calibration, careful attention to anything that might throw off what they're doing in the lab, which is, I assume, a lot of it is measuring.
It is, yes. Honestly, we work with a lot of different industries. Our instruments are so precise that if you took an Olympic-sized swimming pool and put a drop of blood in it, our instrument could detect it in all of that water. So these are very sophisticated. We work with a lot of environmental labs, FDA, food, pharmaceutical, air quality, soil testing, you name it. If you've breathed it in, drank the water, or eaten something, or taken a Tylenol, our company's touched it.
There's a trend, and I don't want to, sound crude, but I guess I will. There's an important trend, though, of when COVID really was kicking in, is to look at wastewater coming out of the treatment plants in various cities, and they could detect COVID. Is that something you guys measure, or is that your competitor's job?
No, actually, oddly enough, we once COVID hit, we spent a lot of money and attention into a division. We have done COVID testing. We have developed instruments that do COVID testing and come up with different techniques, not just in people, but like you said, in various other elements.
Effluents, yeah. In fact, I heard a disturbing story. I believe it was about New York, where they detected signs of more poliovirus in New York City, in Manhattan, through the waste treatment. That's the drop in the pool kind of testing, and so important to all aspects of our lives, as you say, air, water, and all of that. So, what do you think about me saying that you're all about sales? Or is that just a cliche, or does that ring a bell?
No, I think you're spot on, Doc. And I think sometimes sales gets a bad name because, people think of a used car salesman, but it's really not. It's just the thing that I really enjoy about sales, and I would probably say for the majority of people that I have on my team right now, is that it's every sales job you get, it is still sales, but you're educating people, determining their needs, and creating a solution rather than just trying to get money from somebody. It's more, I would say, any sales job I had has been consultative. Just to clarify that. No,
that's an important clarification. And I and with both of us in the business school back in the day, I wish there was a lot more, curriculum level attention to the nature of sales, because it's business, in nonprofit and government, it's a whole different premise. But in business, you got to learn to listen in a very keen way. You have to have the relationships in the internal infrastructure to be able to say, hey, I've heard from, in your case with the COVID time, I've heard that there's really serious concern now that this virus is spreading worldwide, and can we get involved with it, and or can we convert some of our equipment, or what can we do? So that conversation, big C conversation, is crucially important. And the first to hear, the first to say, would be people on your team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you're not just out there fixing or sustaining what you've sold, but I suspect that you are listening when you're out there to see what else is going on, reading their environment, what we call the context in the book that Peter and I did, and I'm noticing, I'm sure, even though laboratories seem to me to be nice, quiet places where you step through the door and it's all of a hush. An outside world is going crazy, but you're in the lab. But I suspect there's even evidence of some upset and change in laboratories that you can tune into.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How does your team acquire those first signs of something new, or what I guess you guys call the pain point?
Right. Yeah, the laboratories are interesting. Like you said, they are kind of like a quiet, confined space. So it's not always the easiest to get an answer out of somebody that's not used to talking throughout the entire day. I can tell that is a challenge, but I always go back to the 80-20 rule. Let them talk 80% and you talk the 20. And I feel like the biggest success has been asking people, what do you do on a daily basis? Tell me about your lab, because people love to talk about themselves, even if they're the quietest person in the world. If you show interest in what they're doing, and if they talk about their day, then ultimately it's going to come out that, oh yeah, this is what I do on a daily basis. I just wish, there was, XYZ was different, and then bingo, now we have to come up with a solution. So
Yeah.
I would say that's the biggest takeaway for me and my team.
Oh, I think you must have already read our book, right? Because that's what we say that practice is. It's what people love to talk about when you ask them, what do you love doing, or what are you doing now? We've discovered that while there are all kinds of rather scientific ways to try to get a better understanding of human in practice, that the best way we've found is conversation. And it goes with this kind of question. Pam, what do you do on a daily basis that you love doing?
Right.
And what's your answer? What's your answer?
My answer is every day is different. That's what I love about what I do on a daily basis. Every day is different. Every day there's a new challenge. There's a new change. It's never boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a learning situation. Let's say that. Learning opportunity.
What would be an example of one of those times recently when you were sort of sailing along merrily as you do? You're a very pleasant person, and suddenly, what? What's this going on?
Yeah. It happens all the time. So, for example, there were every now and then, like any organization, there are changes in positions and people shift, and you have to adjust, and responsibilities get altered. And I guess this might not be the best analogy, but I'm going to go for it, Doc, if you don't mind. But when people on my team get nervous about change, I ask them, do you ever watch, the Food Network, and you see those food challenges? And each chef is presented with random groceries, and they have to make this masterpiece out of it, and they're under the clock. They've got 30 minutes to create this, and they have to kind of pivot if maybe a secret ingredient is added or taken away. We just have to continue to make that meal. So whatever you need to do to make a mind shift to get that meal to be as best as it can be, we have to do that. We can't sit back and watch the clock run out and not do anything. That makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. That's a great analogy, and I think you've pointed out something that makes your job exciting. Is that in business, a competitive environment of business, the clock has a lot to say about whether you're going to achieve your results or not. I don't care what the results are, whether they're quarterly results or weekly or hourly. And certainly that's true, I assume, in most of the labs where where most of the tests that they do are time-based and have, hopefully they have predicted results, but when they done, similar like the food thing, oh my goodness, look at all these crawly things running around here now. We've never seen those before. So getting people to loosen up, because there is a quietness in those labs there. My stereotype is they're all looking into their microscopes or reading gauges. But it's wonderful that you can, as in the sales service aspect of your work, you can bring out these stories that people like to tell, and then find the little bit of a plot line, or sometimes a major plot line in those stories, where you can either on the spot say, hey, what do you think of this? Or I assume you come back to your team and you guys have regular debriefings where, well, what did anyone see this week that stuck out in that 80% conversation?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit of how that works, the team aspect, because you've mentioned several times. I think that's a credit. You hardly ever said I.
Didn't even notice that, but
yeah. Well, they may be listening at some point, so you want to.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I've been doing that intentionally.
No, I know it's. But you're a team. You're a team leader.
Yeah. No, my team honestly is great, and it's been interesting because we've been virtual now, so it's a lot different than when we were sitting in the office. So we've had to try to be a little creative about how we share ideas and best practices, because you don't hear that in the sales floor like you would in the office. You can't absorb things like a sponge from people that you hear on their calls. So I have every single day we have a team chat open, and I ask everybody to, share their successes, along with the story, what's working for you, or if you're faced with a challenge, can anybody help me? Because I don't always want to be the answer, because I don't have all the answers.
No,
nobody does. So it's really collaborative, and I do have team meetings every week where we also review, what did you see this week? If we're running, a promotion, or we're trying to target a certain group, or are you having success? Do we need to change what we're doing? Is our approach working? Is it not? What can we talk about? So it's very open. I never tell them what to do. I really appreciate them taking on their own territories and managing it. I'm always here for assistance, obviously, and for suggestions, but I find it that the team can't really learn if they're just depending on one resource.
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Good point. And I would leap us back to my classroom years ago. I never felt like I was the only teacher in the room. Hopefully you guys saw that as I had you set up in teams, and I brought in guests, and we went out when we could. We went out to see business in action, and because there was so much more interesting things about management and business and learning back then than I could ever have packed into a lecture or put up on a what we used to call. We didn't even have Blackboard back then, I don't think.
Right.
But I think you caught on, and you're carrying on the Doc tradition. That's good. That's good to hear.
I hope, Doc.
How is your team deployed? You mentioned that they have territories. You've carved up all of North America from the Arctic Circle down to the Mexican border and more.
Yep.
So how does that work out?
Yep. So right now I have 8 sales reps and I have 3 sales admin. So the sales admin essentially help out with, quotes, orders, questions for the entire team. Then my 8 sales reps, they're divided. Essentially, we try to keep the territories as combined as possible. So I have 2 reps that cover Canada and part of the U.S. Everybody else has parts of the U.S. One covers the Caribbean, another one covers Puerto Rico. But we try to keep everything as close as possible. So, somebody doesn't have California and Maine, they either have the West Coast, Central, East Coast, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. And they can get the lessons of the geography, the lessons of local cultures, the presence of various labs that may not be present in other parts of the country. But after a while, even though I suppose they're not able to get much back on the road yet, or maybe they are, they still have to become a familiar person.
Correct.
Oh, here comes someone from PerkinElmer.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Right now we've been pretty much at home on phones just due to travel restrictions still, even within the company. But we have been getting out there a little bit more. But honestly, inside sales and outside sales, I'm very pleased with the team because they could do both. In a pinch, if I need somebody to get on a plane, they can do it. If I need them to make a phone call, they can do it too. So very versatile, and I'm very happy with my folks.
So they can virtually get out onto a lab floor, can't they, through either
Mm-hmm.
a handheld phone or
Yep.
something, and the technician can say, "Could you just take a look?" And so you can get a fairly close look at a particular piece of equipment that you're servicing and feed it back. So yeah, that's a wonderful point, Pam, because we used to talk a lot about inside sales and outside sales as if they're two universes. And sales is what you're manifesting. You're manifesting a sale.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're doing it from a desk over a telephone back in those days, or walking into someone's presence with your kit. Hey,
Right.
I'm from PerkinElmer.
Yep.
But now the fact that your people know that they can work virtually and in person, they are the sales force of the future.
Right. Yes.
The hybrid sales rep.
Yep. We have to adapt.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Now, when you make a deal, though, for service, there's contracts involved, money to be managed, and so forth. How does that roll back in past your sales admin folks and into the larger company? Because I suspect that you're basically a linchpin between those operations and activities and the larger business.
Yep. So just to bring up, because you had mentioned contracts, we actually have another division that handles contracts, but we do sell contracts for our instruments. My team, essentially what we do, my sales reps will sell physical product, to a customer. We then get a purchase order, which my sales admin team will process. They'll, process the order. If there are any issues with credit or any questions for the customers, they'll handle that, because the ideal situation is my sales reps are selling, not doing the paperwork on the back end, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going for.
So they've got that nicely integrated. Where are you in the larger PerkinElmer is an old company. I assume it's still got a bit of a bureaucracy. Where are you in the hierarchy? How do you work back to your accountabilities, in quotes, above you? I've always been bothered by that term.
Right. No, I understand.
The people who are to whom you report.
Yeah. So essentially my role obviously is to manage the team, and we have targets, and I'm part of a lot of monthly business reviews globally, because it's a global company. So North America is obviously part of that, and we have to report out our numbers and our our struggles, what we need. And I wouldn't even say, let me rephrase that, because I hate saying that. Places we need help or opportunities that we need assistance with.
Yeah.
So that's when we kind of get together on that.
I'll edit out struggles if you don't like
Okay,
it.
please. Yeah, please.
but we're human, and we therefore we struggle. But but you do have that going for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you can get that backup that you need.
Yeah.
When you need it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another part of my role is when I do meet with the team, I ask them too, what obstacles are you coming across? Is there anything that you see as a good opportunity? And they feed me a lot of great ideas. And then it's really on my shoulders at that point to go, if I need to source somebody in marketing to help get us a new, brochure or a white paper, or if I need to go to finance to talk about pricing, or go to the contracts team to figure out if we need to work as a team to, get a discount together for a larger customer. So, I try to take a lot of stuff off their plate just to help out and make sure they're as successful as they can be, so they can do what they do best, which is create relationships with customers.
What's the average age of your sales reps? Are they in the younger side of the spectrum, or have they been there a long while?
Well,
a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. The department I'm in is actually relatively new. It's only been around for about 5 years, and I've been here for 4.
Yeah.
Prior to that, essentially customer service was just taking inbound calls and placing orders.
Mm-hmm.
And the company said, well, maybe if we had salespeople calling on customers to get new business and, upselling, that might be a good idea. So my team itself, nobody's been here longer than 5 years, but as far as age range, varies significantly.
Yeah.
And experience level, they all have sales experience, but completely different backgrounds, which I find to be extremely beneficial because
Yes.
everybody has a different viewpoint, is bringing something else to the table. I think diversity is
So they don't have
key.
to necessarily come out of a STEM program with loads of the same kind of technical knowledge that their customers do.
Right. Absolutely not. No.
But they do want to be aggressive learners in the best sense of aggressive. You want to be sure that, hey, look, this may not be where, I'm a liberal arts major, but I really want to understand how this laboratory ticks. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's all kinds of diversity. But one aspect that I keep coming across in trying to understand the nature of practice is that the background helps, but it doesn't necessarily dictate how you're going to perform now or in the future. That you may have to be like, I can't think of the animal that sheds a snake, sheds their skin, and you keep going. And yet you keep the essence of your background.
Right.
When you came to Central, were you commuting back then? Were you
I was
working?
commuting. I was commuting and working, yes.
Yeah. And in that work ethic, which I counted on, because, I used to load those classes with work, lots of reading, lots of writing, lots of interacting, because I figured I was preparing you for that realities of business, which is what you've been doing all these years since. A lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of talking, a lot of listening. But is there anything that, since I'm now serving my ego in this moment, anything you remember about your learning with me that you might still find in your work DNA?
Yeah, actually, well, I have plenty. I can't believe it's been that long since I've graduated, but I do have plenty of fond memories of your class doc and classes actually that I had with you. But one thing that I could say that I can kind of pull into my current career is that you always did something different. Like you said earlier, you'd pull us into groups and we'd have to interact with people that maybe, had a different background than we did, or, some of us were working and commuting, some were living on campus and not working. And it was great to see people that had different experiences and kind of work together and come to a decision and learn from other people. It was also great when you would, give us the opportunity to go to, a brunch to meet other local professionals that, and at the time, you're a college student, you're meeting these people that are wildly successful. And it was just eye-opening, to get the opportunity to talk to these people that otherwise you wouldn't have a chance to interact with. So I think just kind of stepping outside of the safe zone is something that I did learn from you and carry that on throughout my career.
Yeah, well, you sure have. A quick summary of your career, Pam. When you left the Beakley, which is a very small standalone corporation, what did you do next?
I went to More Medical, which is now McKesson, but it was owned by McKesson at the time. So I was in medical sales there. After that, I went to a pharmaceutical company.
Were you doing sales management in the pharmaceuticals company or managing?
I was a team lead at that point. I was also a trainer at More Medical, and just been kind of waiting for the opportunity to do what I'm doing now.
No kidding.
Because I missed it. I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did.
See, that's a clear sign that you are well aligned with your practice profile. If you want to say you have a profile, that feeling that, all right, I'll try this, I'll do a bit of that. I know I have to put food on the table, but waiting for that moment. Can you remember, Pam, 5 years ago or 4 years ago, when this opportunity there it was, emerging from the fog?
Yes, apparently. Yeah.
How did you find it? How did they find you?
Well, I made it honestly, another thing too, Doc, I will answer this question, but to just come back to what you asked me before about things that I learned from, being in your classes and learning from you is networking.
Oh, yeah.
So my current director, we never actually worked together, but we had aligning jobs and we knew similar past coworkers. And I've always said that work ethic is just the most important thing in the world, because even if you quit your current job, Connecticut's a small state. So
word gets around.
Word gets around. And just because of my previous jobs and the networking that I had done, my current director actually found me, recruited me, and I went in there and I had the mindset of, I'm going to manage this team one day. And actions speak louder than words. So I did get a promotion, and it's been an amazing journey. I can tell you that.
That's a great story. Yeah, because that person, your director, essentially used up some coin of the coin of the realm in that world. Your world is reputation, and he or she put a reputation out there and said, "You should, we should try Pam." And of course, if you'd come in there and then you had gone half asleep, which I cannot imagine with you, nope, or anything else that didn't show that you were really eager, it probably would have been another story altogether. But right, you did. You're doing it, and you're rocking it. Last couple of minutes here. Sure. What are you hoping for next, now that you've kind of settled into it? Not settled into it. Now you have navigated into a nice cruising altitude, if you will, for the new phase of your practice. What are you looking for and hoping for next?
Well, short-term goal and long-term goal. I have two. So short-term goal is to expand my team and give other team members opportunities if they do want to expand into a lead or handle other responsibilities. I don't want anybody to ever feel that they're just sitting there stagnant and nothing's ever going to change, because a bored employee is not a happy employee.
And a bored Pam is not a happy Pam.
Correct.
So I can see you really enjoying that, the native person developer in you. So that's a great short-term goal.
Yep. Yep.
Now to the longer term.
So the long-term goal is, I really do enjoy this company. I would like, once I kind of have the opportunity to develop people, I'd like to step up a level and take on more responsibility and become more engaged with other areas within the company, and just kind of go from there and learn things that I don't know right now. Mm-hmm. And I just don't want to stop, I guess is the point.
That is a great point. Even though we have to stop the recording in a few minutes, I want to underscore how much I really appreciate your long-term goal. Now, back in the old days, there was sort of the Dilbert kind of view of people in upper management, mocking, and they were always interfering. I have been watching trends as carefully as I can from afar here, since I've been retired for 6 long years, but I'm picking up on another generation of managerial leaders at the level you're aspiring. Many of them are women, minorities. They don't look the same. Many of them have reached that point younger than you, and some are waiting. But the point I'm making is that the action is happening a lot in that level now, whereas in the old days, that middle managing group was there basically to take orders from the top and repeat them to the base, and then kind of monitor the in-between. That's not what you're aspiring to, is it?
Not at all. Not at all.
You don't want to be a really good bureaucrat. There's a lot of job security in that. I don't know. That's the myth of it anyway. How would you see yourself working in a more dynamic middle ground for a business that's trying to stay young and relevant, even though it's almost 90 years old.
Right, right. So, I mean, I guess my viewpoint, just regardless of what level of management you are at, it's important not to just bark down from the top. That doesn't accomplish anything. What I do right now currently, which I hope to continue in any future position, is take feedback from both sides and never just come up with a complaint about what you didn't like to hear, come up with a solution or a suggestion for both sides. And it seems to be working right now. And that's kind of how I plan to, you're never going to get everything you want, but you know, you can offer up suggestions, solutions. If things work, they work. If they don't, they don't. And you adjust.
Yeah. And therefore, in your way, you're driving a very big, very venerable company in your way, and through you efforts and your team, you're driving that company's business. You're helping them achieve those results that they want. And you get a part of that. You get some reward for that. So I'm really happy for you, Pam Potanka.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad I rediscovered you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you found me. and I'm glad you sent me an invite. This has been great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And next time we do connect, we don't have to create another episode unless you want to share some even more exciting achievements that you've made. But let's talk again soon.
That sounds good. All right, Doc. Thanks so much.
Bye, Pam.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Practice Podcast, where we discuss practice with a capital P. If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify, Automatic, and Apple Podcasts, or go to inactionresearch.com/podcast-page. And if you'd like to learn more about social inaction and the nature of practice, head over to inactionresearch.com for more information. Thank you for supporting this show. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Oh, and one more thing. How could I forget? The book on practice as a way of being is available now in digital form, something that would be new, like podcasting to many of us. And it's a great way of learning more and more about what this podcast presented when Peter Vale and I originated it several years ago. So please come to mylibrary.world/practice, and you'll see what I mean. Thank you.